Hi, now this is another one under review at the moment, and this is a guitar that doesn't know what it is exactly. There's a claim made for it that it's an Aria, but I don't think it is. I think it's a Hohner, an unbranded Hohner, and I have a feeling, I don't know what it's made of, but we're going to need to have a look at this to decide what we do with it. So this is one the Beach has bought, sold as an Aria from the 70s, which it clearly is from the 70s, but it's, first of all, it's not making any noise at all, it's just making a loud farting noise. So it's not really as described as a, all in good condition and so on, so not a good start. But there are a couple of things I want to know about this. So obviously we're going to need to figure out what's not working about it. It's one of these now that has the nylon saddles, which are all slightly out of radius with each other. They've worn differently, and so some are lower than the other, which is a pretty horrible outcome. I quite like this. It had a nice feel. It doesn't have the plywood top feel, so if it's what it says it is, or if it claims to be, well, it's not the Aria model that the seller claimed, but it may well be a Hohner 430, in which case it's supposed to have a pancake construction, 2 pieces of solid wood and a top. It's kind of possible. I like the feel of it. It's not playing anything. These are replacements, these chrome pickup surrounds, and the pickups aren't doing anything as far as we can see. So I think the first thing to get some idea about what to do with this, whether it's even worth going any further, is we do have to take the pickups out and have a look, or take the neck out and have a look at the neck pocket and see the construction. So there's no way around that. Beach said that he got a pretty good feeling from this seller, so he didn't feel like it was being ripped off, but I think he wasn't correctly identifying the guitar. Oh, he's bloody well done these locking nonsense. Yes, it wasn't correctly identified. So and the question is, even if it's a Hohner, there's kind of no real reason why it's not got a logo on it. Who knows? Look, would you look at that? Getting blood on the guitar. That hurt. It genuinely hurt, as you can tell by the gallons of blood I'm shedding and spilling. Oh, could you? Players, when you do your strings, right? Please don't do that. Don't lock them in that stupid fashion, because that's what it does to people like me. Okay, we have to pull them out, and the only way they can come out is that they come out with a twang and they cut my damn hands. So please, it's just it's either that, or if I don't want to cut my hands, I can just go ahead and scratch your guitar headstock if you do this. I mean, the other way is to cut them and then just let that bit fall out, which I think I'll do, because I don't really want to shed any more blood. There you go. Take that. Damn it. I mean, really. There you are. I said, get off. Right. Don't like it at all. Oh! Did I ever say I hate these old guitars? And more blood. Jesus. Sorry. Pardon me, but I mean, it's just a danger zone, really it is. You shouldn't do it, okay? It's not right. You make this impossible to get these strings off, and I have to shed real blood to do it, and I'm not impressed. Like I say, if at best I shed blood for you, at worst I end up scratching your darned guitar headstock. Seriously? Right. So the question with these old guitars is, are they worth doing up? This has a good vibe to it. All right. So it does make me think that it's better than your usual plywood 70s horror. Okay. So I'll say that much for it. Made in Japan, well, we know that much. That's kind of cute. It's worn nicely. It's got a whole nice vibe to it. But we're really not sure what that is. So for now, I'm just going to tie these down. So I'm going to take off the neck, and we'll have a look at the construction first, and then we'll have a look inside the cavity for the pickups. Now, somebody claimed that these were Maxon pickups, which I don't know about. Particularly, well, I don't know how good or bad they're meant to be. But we shall see. It's always an interesting mission. Gold. The original ones, worn on the back end, nice and gold on the inside. Let's just hold this down so it doesn't drop. Also be interested to have a look inside and see what condition or quality the electronics are. A bit of rust on that one. And on that one. That's stuck on. Okay, it's got a little shim in there. Nothing unusual about that, or particularly untoward about that. Now, okay, so we got, alright. It's funny, isn't it? You can't pull it off with your hands and yet it drops off. And then goes to some untold destination in the shed. Right, so we can see mahogany by the looks of it. That's good. That's encouraging. And we've got a, well, I was going to say we've got a top, but the top appears to be ply. Now, why it would be ply and not why the top would be ply and not a cap of some sort is a little confusing to me. I'm not an expert on this construction or any of those things. Let's have a look and see if we can find any further information in here. No, not like that. That's a bit knackered from start. Worn out. Looks like this one needs a replacement. Almost certainly does. It's been rammed in. Okay. See if we can get it to move. We've got spare ones of these. If we can just get this one out. No, I'm going to have to find a way of cutting that one out. It is slightly annoying. These are pretty stiff actually, so they're not going into just a thin layer of ply, that's for sure. A bit worn out. No, they just do not want to do anything. I don't know why that is. They're not wanting to do anything. It's often the trouble with older things. They are worn a bit. There's practically just about get this one out with a lot of downward force. It's just as well because we can replace it. It looks like maybe these, when these rings have been put on, these have been put in with a pilot hole that isn't quite big enough because they've gone in really tight. Now this one is going to be quite a difficult removal. We're going try and get some sort of notch in there. These aren't too difficult to replace if we do end up ruining the plastic chrome surround, but it's a shame because there's no bite whatsoever. Oh, hang on, maybe there's a tiny bit of bite. No, not doing anything. Right, so we may well end up losing that, which is an absolute pain because we can't examine under here. Well, we still got to get that out. There's absolutely no way around it. So to cut a slot in it, I'm going to need some access now. That's easy. It's how a screw should come out. Likewise, this one. Well, it doesn't really want to come up. Okay, so I'm doing that mainly to give us some access to this screw here, so we can make a little slot on the top of it. It's probably going to be best, we could do it with a Dremel, probably best to do it, try and do it with a hacksaw blade across there. If that doesn't work, we can do it with a Dremel, but it will probably end up costing us the guard or the surround. But again, they're not too difficult to come by, and they're certainly not original parts anyway. So let's have a look and see how we can get into this. Unfortunately, I think this is. See, these aren't plastic, funnily enough. These are chromed, but I don't think we've got any option or any way of getting much of a slot in here to get these things out. You might just have enough there. No, it doesn't want to do it. Oh, maybe a tiny bit, possibly. Just about turning. The trouble is, you have to put so much brute force into it, you run the risk of running into something else. You know, slipping and bashing something else. Don't get any kind of purchase on this. Now we've got it moving, that's it. Just about. That is a... Come on, you can do it. Come on, you can do it. Those pilot holes are too small. Now it doesn't actually want to come out because it's caught in there, so I'm going to have to now raise it up with this, encourage it upwards. But we have to get something under here now, like a piece of plastic. Or a piece of plastic and something that will help us raise it up. Down here, closer to here. Okay, like that. Okay, starting to come up. Come on, you can do it. You can come out. Pressing down and lifting up at the same time is a very contradictory thing to do. Come on, come on. You can do it. A tiny bit of leverage, maybe. It's almost too thick. we come upwards. Blimey. It's trying. Don't really want to put any tape on there, but I do want to protect it obviously. But I need to get a bit of leverage going. Just maybe I can get this under there and get a slight twist on it. That's it. God almighty. The wrong tools. Here we are. Working back to front. Right. You are history. I think it's also rusted in there as well. Okay, so we've got, that's encouraging. We've got, I don't know, well, you can see this. I'll give you a fly through. Hold on. Let's have a look at power on, power on. So we've got something that looks better than the single coil in a tin arrangement. So that isn't encouraging. However, it is going into I think it is a pancake thing, and I think we're looking at the two halves here, which again is a bit encouraging. Although I still don't quite understand. Is it a ply, or is that? It's really hard to figure this out. So let's get. Let us get a little bit of a knife thing going here. And what we see is what is clearly ply. In fact, oh my god, my glasses are falling off because they're the wrong kind. We've got, if I point at it, we've got ply, which is beginning here. I don't know how well you can see this, at that point there. So the whole of this top piece is made of ply, which is what they've made the shape out of, and somehow they've moulded it. I don't quite get it. It's clever. But yes, you can see that these are sealed with a resin as opposed to wax potted. So they've been resin potted. By the look of it now, it looks like looking into the Titanic down here. There's the cargo hold. Let's put one of these back in if I dare. I'm trying to find one that isn't completely worn to bits. That's not a good start. You can see these are rusty, so I just want to hold it in place. I don't want to be running the risk of this thing getting stuck again. I'll get some new ones in there, or at least one new one, two new ones I think. So while we're at it, that's positive. Let's have a look at what the electrics department on this is like. And I say, well, the battery's good, we'll kind of look at it from this end. Hard to get these little screws out. They sort of, not too bad there. They seem to, I sometimes lose their grip, like they've been taken in and out, if they've been taken in and out loads of times. These aren't too bad. Characteristically small, they're not your modern versions. And it kind of spoils it. It changes the look if you put modern pick guard screws in. Okay, so we got full-size pots, but a big fat nothing coming out of the thingy, which we can just double check. I got a big farting noise when I did this yesterday in the house. So let's, sorry about the view for a minute. Let's just try it again. Again, we can see it's definitely two-piece construction, two halves, which is cool. Oh no, I've left the bloody thing on all night. No batteries. That's gonna... Anyway, right. And that's not gonna charge up quickly. Right, so I'm gonna have to charge that thingy up overnight, but meantime, we can't do that test. What I'd like to have a look at is, first of all, what we're getting off the pickups. So I'm going to do a machine V test, and if I'm not complete, oh god, right, first of all the pots have gone round in a circle and they've wound round the back, which could be why they're not working. So, okay, now is the time. I have to create another container and start decanting important components into it, because I'm going to have to take the knobs off now to get a look. I turn the pots around to make sure that we can get access to lugs, so therefore we can test the pickups, but it could be that these have gone spinning and that's why they're not performing. These wouldn't have been the original pots, I don't think. I think they've been changed with these pickup surrounds, and but the tuners are the original tuners. These would be the original pots though, not knobs, sorry. The knobs are new. Now this would be a good candidate for a buff, I think, if we're going to put any time and energy into it, because it's actually quite a mean looking thing, and apart from being a little bit old, there's probably no reason why that wouldn't shine up beautifully, along with the neck as well. So we have fairly ordinary pots. I'm now looking for the adjustable spanner, which has gone for a walk somewhere where it belongs. Okay, so there is a little damage here which we might even be able to fix with a bit of finish, but it's where some of the ply has come over the binding. Right, so the first one that's out of position is this one. So I'm going to slack that off and see if we can turn it round, which partly frees up. If it was pressing against the edge and causing any shorts, then we've freed that up. So we'll tighten it up the right way around just to begin with. That should stay there. And now we've got access. This one is also spun round, not a good look. So we can't, now we can get access to the lugs. If there's something completely wrong, we need to rewire it, then obviously we're going to need access to these pots as well. We'll keep them original, tighten them up. Right, and that one's a bit spinny too. In fact, they're all a bit spinny, that's the fact. They are difficult to hold in place when you're tightening up. If they start to turn around as you tighten, sometimes your fingers can't do it. So I used to have, I still have a thing that you can kind of often jam in place. Usually actually I use that one for in there, but you can make a little thing for holding pots steady. I haven't figured out what shape exactly it would be just yet, but that's if your fingers aren't vice-like enough to hold it in place. Okay, so can we just see what, oh yikes. Okay, input. What goes in where? Okay, so the switch output comes from the switch output goes to the jack. So the pickups will come into the straight in onto the pots, and then I'm trying to figure out, so the jumper will go on the tone, which will go on the same one. So I would think the bridge pickup is this one here. Okay. Oh, oops. That's a bit dubious. Is that the output? No, it's not the output lug, surely. Maybe it is. It is. No, I don't know what's going to and from the pickup. That's the problem. They're all black. Let's pretend this one was the hot lug. Well, let's not pretend it because it isn't showing anything. Into the pot. Okay, 5 ohms, no, kilo ohms, 5 kilo ohms, and that's on lug number 1. And this one is showing 480, 490, bridge 490. Similar balance. There's even, I don't know how well you can see it, but there's even a load of sticky tape put on there to just pad out the plate. So it was obviously, by the time they put the finish on, the plate sitting in there was too deep, so they've padded it out with some tape. Perfectly good way of doing it. What it will do is break any, well, there's no shielding anyway, so if there was shielding, that would have broken the sort of shielding on the inside of there, but there isn't. Not that arguably you might not need it for a single coil, but okay. So what I currently don't have is batteries, so I can't test this. Technically I should be able to test an output from here. It's reading as nothing, and the resistance is showing as nothing. It should be connected straight through to both sets of pickups via the switch. Now, unless when I got them a little tiny another amplifier and brought it in, I'm not going to know. I'm not going to get a sense of where the fault is, but there definitely is a fault because it made a loud farting noise. Now, the difficulty, or the pity about this, is it was sold as fully working and in good nick, which if it's not playing anything at all on first plug-in, then it's obviously not great, but it is a cut above, at least a cut above the sort of plywood K satellite Columbus version, so that's a reasonable step, but it isn't what you would call a top-notch 70s Les Paul copy. However, like I said, it is quite a likeable thing. Oh, look, it's got, somebody's marked the leads in here, so I think this has probably been done at a later date and somebody like me has marked them up. Now here we've got this spinning, which is why I made this little block, but in this case it's too fat, but that one will fit in there, and then I can get the doer upper, or if it's a whatchamacalliter, one of these, we can now do it up and keep this thing in the correct angle alignment, like that, and we can stop it from spinning around any further as we tighten it. We don't get a huge amount of grip, but we certainly get enough. Unfortunately, the plastic indicator is going around with it as we tighten it, but it's not really the main thing. The main thing is it goes up and down as opposed to side, and it's in place and everything is intact. That looks to me okay at that end, but a question as to why it's not working is anyone's guess. So we do have a ply top. So they've made the whole of the shaped bit is ply, which is why this bit here is ply, and somebody's cracked off the lacquer when it comes down to it. We could do that up with glue even, or just we could colour it. We could put a tinted lacquer over it and build that back up. And no doubt it's an old poly finish, it wouldn't be nitrocellulose or anything like that. That's not a big deal. The question is why it's not working. So we know the pickups work, but they're quite low output. That's not a big problem. They're showing a resistance, so on paper it looks like they're working. If I just put these in, I think we would definitely benefit from some new pickup mounting screws, because I don't like the wear on these, but that'll hold it for the time being. This isn't how I would have wired it. It's effective. I mean, it does. It's the right. It's a way round that works. So we've come in from the pickups to the volume pots. We've gone in on the middle one. It's just kind of reverse to how I would do it. Gone in on the middle one, and then output goes from the lug number 1 up to the switch, back out from the switch down to the jack. One of the things, if there's something going buzz buzz, the truth is the first place you might want to look is the jack itself. There's a screw missing from it to begin with, which is a small deal, but they're actually quite difficult to find, those little types, so we have to locate another one of those. But if you've got a buzz, check the unseen portion first. I mean, unless there's some obvious wires hanging off here, which there aren't, then go for the hidden part of it, which is the jack plug, which sits in there, sorry, the jack socket, which sits hidden inside the tunnel. And if there's going to be something wrong with it, it's almost certainly going to turn out to be something to do with that. That looks as though it's well connected for the time being. Don't see there necessarily being a problem with that. So if there is this big buzzing grounding sound, we're going to have to track it down to somewhere else. This goes round this pot, which it doesn't need to do. These lugs, just in case, sometimes they end up touching the wood, which can be what you don't want. I don't know why, but sometimes the finish on the wood can actually cause a short, or a partial short. Technically it shouldn't, but I have seen it where it does. So let's put 2 of these back in. So what I think I'll do is take this in the house and just check it for that buzz again and see if we're getting any activity on the pickups. And I'll take the batteries in that I need to charge while I'm at it. These are kind of worn a little bit tired. Okay, that's a good start. And this, well, the original and cheap tuners, but in essence nothing that won't necessarily work okay. I think one of the things, before we spend too much time on it, I think we should check the truss rod adjustment and make sure it does adjust, because if it doesn't, we're a bit more up against things. These are countersunk little screws. And what I would recommend for this, if we can get the pickups working nicely and they have a nice tone, then I'm recommending on this one we don't necessarily refret it, but we just clean it up and change the nut, because that's I don't know what that is, but it might have been bone, plastic. But the important thing is we want to make sure that it doesn't grip the strings and it can the guitar will stay in tune. So let's have a look what we're working with here. Okay, so the truss rod, it's a little bit of a tight fit angle wise, so it's hard to actually get it in and get it out, if you get what I mean. It It might be better to use the ball-ended thing. Right. Okay, so that's slack. And that's flat. And what we would like to see now is some back bow in the neck. And there is. Okay, that's good. So that bit's working. We'll take it back to just off slack for a beginning for a minute. So that's okay. A little bit of soft paper there. Well, it's matched to that, so it's a bit of paper that's got stuck and fallen apart, but it's doing its job, which is okay. We'll hang this up from here. If we can just hook it over safely. We'll have to get another one if that doesn't fit. That doesn't fit. Let's get another one. There's another one. Here we are. And that's probably not long enough. Where have all my hanging things gone? That's not long enough. But this isn't long enough either. Let's try it. Yeah, so we'll go and just get another sense of whether these pickups are completely unfunctional at the moment, or whether there's just something that you can move and activate them, like a bad connection. We'll have a little bit of a poke around, but we need the amp really to do that, and we don't currently got it. So, okay, neck safely up there. Okay, so we've got a refret to do on that one. Some tweaks to do on this one. Hopefully we don't need to replace the pickups, but if we do, then I've got a set of Epiphone Gold Hot 57 humbuckers that we could replace in there, but I'm hoping we don't have to do that, because these are supposed to be, by all accounts, quite good. Alright, so see you in a minute. So having thought this through, wait a minute, I proposed what we're going to do with this, or what I suggest we do with this. Since it is a Hohner, that's what I've discovered, it's an unbranded Hohner, and since what I've discovered is that taking it back in the house, it is completely useless. It's making no noise at all. It's just farting. So the problem is the pickups are showing a resistance. It's making a loud farting noise. There's no signal coming through. So we just ought to rewire it. There's no point trying to fiddle around to find the fault. Hello, is there someone who wants to come in? Who's this? Is that Fat Face? Well, you can come in, but you're not really the shed cat. There's only one shed cat. Yeah, I've ordered a new set of CTS long shaft pots anyway. So I think rather than try and figure out whether there's something going wrong somewhere in here, and there's no obvious breaks or anything obviously wrong, I've suggested, well, I've ordered new parts throughout for the electrics, and I just think we'll set it up so we try it with these pickups, and if they're great, we'll leave them in. If not, we can then more easily go to a replacement set, and there'll be ones which I know the provenance of them, you know, in other words, I'll know that they work. So we're going to basically hoik everything out of here, and also redo the wiring and put some orange drop capacitors in. I know they're not original, but they'll be you know, better than, or as good as, if not better than. And these are original pots, but they're bog standard. So it looks like that the previous owner of this, I think, sold it in good faith as an area. He thought it was an area. In fact, the number he's advertised it and sold it as doesn't actually exist. He's called it I don't know, an SE 450, and apparently there wasn't one. There was a Greco 450, I think SE 450, no, not SE, I don't know, whatever, a Greco 450, and there was an Aria LS 400. Both of those were higher spec and had set necks and so on, so they weren't this kind of era of guitar or this kind of construction. So what I'm planning is I'm going to take everything off today, and I'm going to make some covers, or make some little stick over covers for the hardware parts, so that we can buff over the top, and then tomorrow, if I'm lucky and there's a dry moment, then I will buff the guitar out. So we can do that, and the neck, just get a good clean up. Let's get this undone and out of here. So we've got a new switch coming as well, just in case there's something wrong with it that I can't diagnose. I've been in this situation before where that didn't even screw on. Where you try and work with the original wiring, and you spend more time trying to find the fault in the original wiring than if you just replaced it all with your own, because that way you actually know for sure, you're absolutely certain about the wiring. You know what's where, you know all the solder joints are good. So that's my logic. It sounds like a good idea to just keep, what you may calling it, diagnosing it and trying to find a fault, but as I say, I've tried it, and this is annoying too. Can't quite get this out this way. Yeah, you can go on forever, and it's soul destroying actually, a bit pointless. So this one is just making life difficult. It doesn't want to come out this way, or let me cut it out this way. But I was hoping to simplify this by snipping all this off. Okay. Take the jack socket off. We'll put a new jack socket on as well, and we might have to try and find some more little gold screws. I wonder if we might get some in the hardware shop in town tomorrow. These little, slightly longer but dome-headed, flat-based screws that they're sort of not. They're quite hard to come by, I mentioned. So we'll take this and snip this off as well. May use some of this wiring if it's any good, but if not, we'll use new stuff. And then this, well, let's see what we're doing. Those are the tones, those are the inputs, right. So we'll just snip these off here. So we're going to use new stuff all round. I've no need to heat up a soldering iron for this. This one here is the bridge ground. That one off. Some big washers doubling up, holding these in place. Okay, so then we get these out. We'll dig out some new gold pickup rings. The seller called these period correct brass. He's replaced them with period correct brass. I don't know if they look like brass to me or chrome. I think he's bought them from Japan, and Japan, what am I saying? He bought them from China, where they forever call them brass, but in fact they're chromed metal. These holes are, as you can see, they are proving to be difficult. They really don't want to behave. This one feels better. There's something about that one that's gripping too hard. We shall, and we've got plenty of gold pickup ring screws like this, so we'll just make sure the holes aren't too tight next time round. I mean, it seems like an extreme thing to do, And in some ways, look, this one doesn't want to come up either. It's sort of stuck in place, just like the other one. In some ways, you might say, well, why wouldn't Beach go back to the owner and say, look, this isn't as described, item not as described. And you could do that. There's some complications around why he isn't doing that, which have to do with eBay shutting an account of his. Long story, but anyway. So it makes it a bit more difficult to go back and say, oi, give me this money back or a refund. But we've now kind of gone past that point anyway. And actually, overall, see, this one doesn't want to come out either. There's a lot of threaded threads here that don't want to play with this timber, and I'm not really sure why. That's just fell out, that did. That's rusted, completely rusted. So there's a number of things here that we can improve and get those things sorted out as well. But yeah, it's not a bad old guitar, and it will scrub up nicely. There's a blemish here. Again, more rust. There's a blemish here which wasn't really talked about, or I don't know what the word would be, fronted up by the seller. It's kind of started lifting, and then maybe they painted it with a pen or something. And we've got some. Yeah, we've got a little bit of a lip here. So I don't know whether this is fixable easily with some poly finish, which we can do over the next day or so if we wanted to. Just want to see how proud this bit is here, because there's no point trying to finish it off if we're sticking up. If we can put some paint on it and then go over the top of it with what do you call it? That stuff. But not if it's sticking up on my own. Again, this wasn't really detailed. Okay, so it's cracked around the edge where somebody's bashed it. But technically, we could now, providing this doesn't move any further, we could paint this bit in. I could probably even do it with a bit of nitro, just for the sake of using paint. We could paint this bit in, and then we can make up some waterborne poly and build that up over a couple of days and get the colour right. Let's have a look. See if we can get this to tear the way we want. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to tear it this way. Like this. That's what I wanted it to do. That will probably do. Okay, that's probably the wrong thing to do it with. Okay, so we can we've got that little cracked bit there. I've got black waterborne paint, but it's very, very translucent and it will take quite some time to build up, whereas this is a much thicker medium. Have we got a brush here? No. Yes, no. Okay. Wondering if we had kicking around a very fine brush. Okay, so what we can do is we can just drop some black into here. We could have done it with pen, to be honest, but the thing about this is we can build it up a little bit with this, so we don't have quite such a step down to the inside of this crack. So obviously I can paint a bit over the masking tape. We can probably go right up to the cracked edge. Now this isn't going to be the world's most perfect finish, but what I'm aiming to do is just colour in that bit, and then we'll strip the tape back, and then we'll concentrate on building up with some fill and finish. Actually, I just might be able to go straight to some clear lacquer, clear poly. Now I have gone up over the edge there, so what I want to do is just pull that flat if I can. So that's what I'm aiming for, just to kind of, that's it, go over the top and get that to sit in there. This is quite a difficult brush to use by any means, so I'm not really using it as a brush, I'm just dropping a bit of paint into the bit that I need to cover up. Something like that. I mean, an alternative is to spray it, but that's you end up covering quite a big area. It'd be good if I had a fine pen, brush, which I thought I had, kicking around out here. But obviously not immediately to hand. It's okay. Okay, well, this will level out in its own free will. Maybe the brush was in here. I'm sure I saw a little very fine one. No, no. Nope. Must be in the house. Okay. Anyway, so the idea would be just to colour this in, this bit, and then ideally we'll pull off the, I mean, it might even be better to do it while it's dry. There we go. Pull away the tape like that, and we've got a bit of a colour in that we, oh, there's a tiny bit missing, that we could then sand back very gently, and then we go over. So I think we need a tiny bit more, a tiny little blob of black in that corner, but you can see it follows the masking, allows it to follow the edge pretty well. So I just need the tiniest, whoa, that's not clever. Let's use a tiny bit of this black we just dropped on the work surface. Okay, thank you. Get that out of the way. Get this in the bin. Get some things to mop up this. Right, so I will be tempted to place this now underneath the thing. Like I say, and what we can do tomorrow when it's dry, or the next day, we can sand this down a little bit if we need to, and then we can start building up some finish over the top of that, just to basically stop it looking like a great big crack or a great big flake that's been knocked off, which it has. So I'm just going to put that under there safely. Okay, so that will be it for that guitar for now. Waiting, obviously, we're about 4 days to wait, three or so days to wait for the new pots. So that's just as well. And we'll stash the important components under here with it. Stay there. And then the next job, we've got the refret and then the tidy up on the SE700. So I'll switch to that one. Let's see if we can get this thing working. Are you working? Because it wasn't working yesterday. Appears to be working. I don't know what happened yesterday. Ended up having to do some filming on the Hawaii phone. Anyway, so I've rewired this for the second time, and I think I found out where I went wrong the first time. So what the heck, it's now done. it's one of those things you just have to keep a cool head, because if you don't, you can get pretty demoralised pretty quickly with wiring. And guess what? I was running the wrong wire to the jack, and although I had labelled them all up, I ended up taking the wrong one to the jack, and it was one of the pickup outs. Anyway, so you live and learn, and you learn and live the hard way. So here we have a pile of all the bits to go back on here. And this thing's got loads of little mini screws in here, so I'm going to have to sort of find all the bits again to pull out the related important parts. So it feels like quite some time since this thing was together. I don't know to this day what was wrong with it in the first place, but it was doing nothing but making a loud farty noise. We're certain about that much. Anyway, so I'm just going to pull out all the tuners, various things, ferrules for the tuners, neck bolts, various things, strap buttons, neck bolts 3, neck bolts 4, then we've got screws for okay, difficult to actually see these little things because we need tuner screws 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, not 12, 12, where did that one go? Oh my lordy. 12, there's our tuner screws. Then there might be some more we need. Then we've got, let's put these over here. Now we need the pickguard screws, which are small ones on this guitar, so I'm sure we've got all of those. They're little countersunk screws, and that's a bit smaller than all the rest, so I don't know if that's correct. And we have some larger ones which aren't part of that. Those are the old the ones that held the pickup rings in, which we don't need anymore because I've replaced those. So let's get out these little bits and bobs while we're at it. And there'll be one or two we need for the, or one we need, two, one in the side and one in the top for that thing. And I think that will be something like that one. No, that's a replacement. Something like that. Looks the best. Oh, we need some for the that thing too. The thing that truss rod cover. That's the one. Okay, so these are all spares. Spares. One more. Kind of difficult to track down all these pieces. Okay, let's come back to that in a minute when we see where we've got. So we need 4 of these little fellas for here. Try and get them all the same size. Yeah, that was quite a challenging little rewire, because you don't know if the pickups are even working when you start off, so your materials could be wrong, and then you get a mistake in the mix like I did. Anyway, I haven't got it finished. I've also replaced the nut, so we've got a nut fitted, ready to recut. And this is always a fun one, lining up these, because they only fit in one place, because they're not equally spaced. That's slightly bigger than it looks to me, but and you can see this thing is fairly road worn. It's had a bit of a knocking about, and it's got also fairly dusty since I buffed it out the other day. Still, it is road worn, there's no doubt about it. It's not going to be brand new looking. Okay, so now we've got the nut, which I've measured up and fitted ready, so that's ready to go. We need to get the tuners on. Please, thank you. So these are, again, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to try and clean those up. They are as they are, ancient, nice, well worn. Now these are going to now challenge me to get them in. Ha! Now they came out of here, but they were pretty tightly fitted. What I don't want to do is have to damage anything getting them back in. Chances are they probably will fight going back in. I've got some wood, and then we need to prop this up. Plastic bag, can you believe it? Slightly different height. In the past I've squeezed these into place, but I'm not sure that will be ideal this time. No, it needs quite a tall thing. The angle's pretty high, and I won't be able to get any force onto it. Alternative is to cheat a little bit and make it slightly easier than it was. But this has to be gauged carefully. If I had an extra hand, I could put that there and tap it home like that. Don't really have an extra hand. Let's check the next one. So this ain't no good to nobody. Yeah, they were very, very tightly fitted beforehand, these things. So they're going all right. I just have to hold them here like this. Tap them back in. Probably if I get them in the groove that they came out of, it'll be even better. Or then I get it sideways and it doesn't come out. God, this one's now fighting me. That's really quite annoying. Right, so I'm going to slightly enlarge this, because I don't want it doing that again. Yeah, it's very hard glue or whatever they were put in with before, so it's quite brittle. Have to get it just right. Which isn't exactly very easy. That one's fitting perfectly. So what I'm going to be doing a bit later on, if it stays dry, I have got a ton of cardboard to get rid of. I've been building up for a while, so it'll be wood burner time, and a ton of offcuts too. Okay, that's this bit. Useful bits of wood everywhere. So next stage, you get these chaps in there like that. Now these probably are a bit tired, these screws, so we're going to treat them with great gentleness. Yeah, they're too tired. This is a pain in the backside, but we're not going to get anywhere if we just put them back in on there. So the alternative, the only choices we've got are to fill these and then re-drill. I think that's what we're going to have to do. It's a pain. It's going to leave us, take a bit longer, but there's no point in trying to stick them back in. They'll just fall out. So get our glue. Pad to splodge some on. God, how many of these do we need now? 12. I'm going to have to cut all of these up. Let's just stand that up there for a minute. So yeah, I mean, just mighty fiddly really. Hello, missus. Okie dokie. I shall be there. 4, 5, 6. So we get these and we cut them in halves, and then we're going to just take off most of the pointed tip, but just to leave a little bit on there so that it has a bit of a head start going in the hole, and they're pointing that way, so we'll pick them up and use them thus, if we can remember to do it that way. And we'll just tap them in and then cut them back. So just about out of glue, and I really need a new container. I've got a big size one over there which I was decanting into here, but quite frankly, well, maybe it is more convenient. I probably should. Okay, so these are our pointy bits. Actually, the thing to do with this is to get another one, sharp one, and just work a little bit of glue into each of these as far as you can. Now we'll wipe off the excess. So this is what you get with the very old tired headstock. It's been played for years, and eventually the screws just turn the wood to mush. It happens a lot with plywood and also MDF, but this is wood, but it's tired and it's old. I know, you know the feeling. Right, so that's just to get a bit of wood in there, no glue in there. And then we get this one like that, and we find the hole, and we just tap it in a fraction, like that. Get another one, tap it in, push it in, tap it in. It's actually, it might be a little bit small to get much wood in here, but we'll try. I didn't want to put the sharp end in, but we'll see if it works. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop, take a break, and then when I come back later on, I will give these cut them back, and then we can sort of what's the word? Scrape them, cut them flat with a craft knife blade, and then we'll have a very small drill bit standing by to make some new pilot holes for these very small screws, but they're nice little original brass screws, so it would be a shame to lose them. So these actually don't go in that far, but it'll do the job. How many times have I done this? A few. Actually, the glue is very cooperative. It forms a little skin on the finish and comes off really easily. Now if you're feeling in a hurry, and if I'd made them a bit sharper and they'd gone in further, we could snip those off now, clean off the excess. Depends how far they're in. Let me have a check. I'm going through craft knife blades like there's no tomorrow. So if you cut them really low, you tend to be able to get the excess off and leave the other part firmly in place. Again, don't worry about the glue at this point in time, because then you can gently clear up the glue. Although at this point it makes a bit of a mess, and if you're not careful, and if the bits of what's it aren't that far in, they'll pull out. I missed that as well. So then you can get a bit of water and clean that back. Just keeping the glue moist so it doesn't stick to the finish. And then, while it's still a little bit moist, if you've got a new blade, which is what you really need, you have to go and buy some more. Then you get your blade and you just carefully snip back your little stumps. Now we can fine tune them a bit later, but we can just get rid of the bulk of it for now. I bend the blade upwards just so I minimise the area of blade that's touching the finish. It just does the cutting bit and nothing else. Of course, you always have to bite your tongue when you're doing this sort of thing. Okay, so that's brought them all flush with the top. And a bit more to just clean everything off. Now hopefully, bit of luck, that will all stay where it's supposed to stay. Okay, we'll leave that as it is. Get in there. Is that one trying to come out? Did I miss one? I think I might have missed one here. There we go. So everything's smooth-ish, and we can fine-tune that later. Okay, there we are. So I'm going to hang that up and take a break, and I'll see you later. Are we working? We are working. Hello, up there. It's another day. It's a colder day than before, but I have done the tuners, put them back on. So it is now time to replace the neck device. Oh yeah, there's a little shim I've put back on there, which will probably raise it a little more than the original bit of paper was, but that's okay because we can absorb that increase with the bridge adjustment. Here we have the 1970s plate. The whole thing's a late 70s, early 80s thing. Now what I don't know just yet is the string positioning, so we may have to be prepared to make an adjustment. I need some more blades, but those weren't very good quality. Come back here. Ooh, come back here. Thank you. I'm definitely using the wrong drill bit. It's not a good idea. Yeah, I've got to get some different blades, because these are, they don't stay sharp long enough. So I'm going to put this on fairly tight to begin with, but be prepared to make an alignment adjustment should the strings require it. Okay, there we are. Also with this one, I'm not going to do any more cleaning. I've done a bit of cleaning on the neck, but I'm not going to take tons more oil out of it, because it won't improve it. It's got a really nice colour as is. A bit cold out here today. You can see that I'm creating condensation on this guitar. That's okay. We'll take it in the house later on when it's pretty much done and see where we get to. Let it stabilise. Now this is, I'm going to need to make an adjustment here because these slots are slightly wrong and the strings are out of place, so I'll do that afterwards. We've got one back to front here, which appears to be as if it was set up originally for a wound G. And these can be, it's hard to figure out which way around these should be, but let's begin by assuming it's this way round. I could make an ass of you and me in assuming. Okay, that's going to come forward of that one, so this has to come right the way back. Hellfire, I'm getting a visual migraine again. This is twice in 2 days. Damnations. Oh boy. Okay, now it looks odd, but yeah, I've got a migraine down here. Looks odd, but it'll do. Now I kept these strings here because they would be useful for doing exactly this next bit, which is cutting the nut slots. Wow. I might have to take a break until this visual migraine is cleared. I think it's probably the best thing I do. I'll come back in a minute. Well, that was an interesting little interlude. twice in 2 days I've had a visual migraine like that. Yesterday, it was just when I'd arrived in town, just parked up in the multi-storey car park thing. These are big chunky strings. I don't know what gauge this is, but it's too big. Yeah, it's very weird. It doesn't come with a headache. It just my vision starts to disappear in a sort of molten lava rainbow metal, you know, like oil stain, oil drifts, oil slick in a puddle kind of colours, like a metallic lava. Anyway, it's very weird, and I think the first time I ever experienced it, it was quite disturbing, and I think I was probably quite frightened because the vision was disappearing. But since then I got used to it, and it doesn't happen very often, but this is the third time now in 2 weeks, and the second one in 2 days, at about the same time on each day. This time yesterday. Anyway, it takes about half an hour to fully pass, and it's fine, well, reasonably fine. But it is a very strange thing. Yesterday it started, and it's really hard when you describe it, because you kind of almost, you can't help, when you have a visual migraine, it's the point where you realise that your vision isn't really to do with your eyes. And that sounds like a really weird thing to say, but what I mean by that is a visual migraine, whatever you call it, visual migraine happens whether your eyes are open or closed, firstly. So it sort of, it's not connected to the picture you see, which is sort of weird anyway, but it does take over, disappear the picture you can see. So when you're having it, it kind of eats away at what you can actually see, which is weird. So yesterday I'd parked the car up and I was walking into the town, and the first telltale sign is a little sort of burning spot somewhere. I've just become aware of a shimmering spot in my vision, and then as it progresses, that spot gets sort of bigger, and it starts to extend in a, it's a weird thing, it's like a line actually, like a zigzag line, zigzag-ish sort of line, and then it eventually kind of goes as much or as little as it wants. There isn't a rhyme or reason. So yesterday it sort of started somewhere about here in my field of vision, and then the whole, about 20 minutes later, the whole left side of what I could see was eaten up by this visual effect. Today it started on the right side. Come on, I need to hold this string in place while I tighten this up. Yeah, it was the right side today, which was weird. Still. Anyway, it's gone, but kind of curious as to if there's a reason for it. Can I get this to hold this string while I wind on, please? Oh, damnations. Anyway, but yeah, it doesn't. It's just, it is weird. It's something I've only really had recently, in recent years. I think, and like I say, I'm lucky it doesn't come with headache, but weird stuff. Come on. Proving quite difficult to wind on. Well, not helped by that. Oh, it's the lovely neighbours. Yeah. Bizarre how difficult it is to hold a plain string under tension. It just will not stay in place. I've got a feeling this is broken. Is it even attached? No, it's not, is it? It's just spinning round. Oh Christ. Working with old strings is definitely, should come with a health warning. Bend that round. Wind that on. Okay. Let's get a note out of it first. First of all, that is hitting the pickup first, so let's get that out of the way. Okay, now let's dial this down a little bit. This end is way too high, but we'll cut that back. I don't know why I didn't cut that back before. I'm not quite sure there. So, what are we looking at? Too much. Dial it in a bit more. A little bit low. Back out. That's a good one. There we go. Okay, the action of the nut is far too high, but we'll leave that for a minute. Just put a capo on, which is actually struggling to hold it down. Okay, we'll take care of the nut next. It's not too bad all round. Let's do the nut. Out of the way. Right, nut time. Look at a straightforward pointing down shot. It's like you're falling out of the sky. Right, nut. Metric. Now this, ideally, I would, if I was keeping a guitar like this, I would refret it, but it's got quite a character on it of its own with such low frets, and I think it's also one that I would recommend to Beach, that he gets to live with it and decide whether it's a guitar he wants to keep. I think it's got quite a nice feel, but it's down to if he comes to like it or not will be the real deciding factor. So only time will tell in that respect. So this is going to be quite a lot of cutting down to get this to the right place. We'll get down there eventually. 53, 32, 42, 24, 16, 12. Okay, so I'm using the triangular file to cut down into the nut a long way. Probably even use a Dremel cutter if I was in a real hurry, but I'm not in that much of a hurry. So I'm cutting it down to get close to where I want with the action. And then it will be obviously quite a bit too much material above the slot, but that's fine, we can get rid of that afterwards, file that down, or if I cut it down with a file, it's the easiest way. These are heavy duty strings, but that's okay for now. We'll replace with lighter gauge once we've done this. I mean, the strings are really only serving the purpose here of doing the nut slots. Okay, getting closer. The thing about going so far is that it gets harder to file once you've got the whole V file in the slot, but we're just about at the point we want to be at there. There we go. I'll hold off there for that one. Also, we have to make adjustments down here because at the bridge end the saddles are worn unevenly, so we need to tweak some of them back into shape. Let's see, what else have I got here that would help cut this quicker? I suppose we've got, where are they? We've got some old things here that will help to move a lot of material. If you get stuck, oops. If you get stuck, then these bass guitar files are not perfect, but they will shift a fair bit fairly quickly. So get through a lot of material. They're quite hard. Actually, watch out, that's nearly on the mark there. more effective than I had imagined. Watch my strength with that one. Tons to go. Which is the thinnest one? This one. Let's use that one. Let's work it down with this. This V-file is more kind of dependable. You know where you are with that a bit more than using those nut files, but they can be quite helpful to move a lot of material out of the way in a hurry. Nearly there. Almost there. Okay, now these are thicker, so we can use a different side of this if we need to move stuff in a hurry. Close. How massively high they are. Huge. Sometimes you can widen it out with a circular one, a round one. Not far. Slowly. Twang. Almost there. Good. Use one of these, widen it up. Not quite big enough. Right, which is the widest one of these? That one. Nearly there. see the shadow. Right, not far. This one. Nearly there, very nearly there. Beautifully in tune, not. So, down this end, what have we got? We've got, it's a little bit off. And what's happened is that the B string has cut quite a long way into there. I'm going to leave it because the others are pretty much alright. It's just the B that's worn away. The alternative way of fixing that is to put a new set of these in. You can't seem to find nylon ones like this, so it would have to be metal ones, which are 10 a penny. I mean, there's millions of them around, but not so easy to find in faded gold, and not at all easy to find them in nylon. Well, these strings have got loads of stretch left in them. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is ditch these, and we will get ready to, what are we going to get ready to do? We're going to get ready to clean everything up here and also take down the excess material on here. These strings are well chunky gauge, so we'll lose those. Slightly not sure if we've got 10 gauge at the moment. I'll have to have a look around. Yeah, so I'm not going to level a guitar with frets as old as this. but I'm also not going to refret it because, like I say, I don't really know how attached Beech is going to be to this one. I mean, I think this has got quite a bit of character, but it all comes down to how it feels when you sit down and play it for a while, as well as how it sounds. I mean, a lot of people have good things to say about the pickups that were in these originally, which these should be the originals, but I don't really know yet until I've had some playtime. So let's get rid of these strings. Everything gets caught, oh my god, all the time. Strings, occupational hazard. Get in the bag and stay in the bag. Okay, so take this and basically file this down. There's very little. The action I tend to set leaves very little nut standing above the fingerboard, especially with frets as low as this, as worn, I should say. So, you know, the lower the frets are, therefore the lower the nut slots are, therefore the less material is required on the nut, so we end up with tons to remove like this. Actually, probably would have been easier on this one to spend more time cutting it down from the base first. I thought I had done, but hey, I didn't. Sort of lost its cutting strength, or it doesn't want to cut this material very well. One eventually gets there, but actually this needs so little material it's almost unfunny. Let's have a go at this. Make a bad stink. Problem with this, it doesn't. Sometimes does it splits it. Getting there. That's about where we get to. A bit too big at this end still. Mighty low, mighty low. Okay, so what do we have remaining to do? Oh yeah, we can give these frets a polish up with a fret rubber, which is always a nice little thing to do if we're not fret leveling. It's difficult to get this thing fully clean because the dust gets on it immediately, no matter what you do. Fret rubbers. Works. It's really just a bit of a cosmetic clean-up. It's not going to be, it's not the same as leveling it or anything like that, where you get a full polish out with all the grades of paper, but this will bring it, refresh it a bit. Yeah, okay, well this will be very boring to watch, so I'm going to do all of that, then I'm going to find some strings. In this case, I think I know I've only got these, so it's going to be hybrid 9s, which are a sort of 10 bottom end and lighter top end, but that's all I've got in store at the moment. Note to self, go and buy some more, ready for the next set of setups. Okay, I shall see you in a bit. Oh, I just took a little moment out there to listen to the news in from the city of London with some another knife attack just gone down. But of course I won't be talking about that because that's just bad for advertisers on YouTube. I mean, they don't like it, you know. It's contentious and negative or some such. Anyway, but there we are, more trouble. Yep. Right, some stretching still to do, and then we'll plug in and check the intonation and adjust the pickups and stuff while we're at it. Come back. Jack, come back. Anyway, I don't know if you saw the other day, you might not have seen, but I bought a single bridge, headless bridge unit from a Chinese manufacturer. I ordered just one out of, well, instead of a set of 6, because I wanted to try it out, because I think they're actually pretty effective. And the one I tried out worked really well. I'm pretty sure I could use it to build. But then I saw another one which was worth getting as well, so I bought that one. So it's 2 lots of about, I don't remember exactly how much now, $10, $12, something like that. And so I get sort of test out or closely examine 2 different types, and gives me a good basis for deciding on which type I would like to use for the next build. And it's quite good because the bridge I've been using up till now is actually pretty dependable and very stable on its own once set up. It's just a little fragile in the setting up part, so meaning that somebody who wasn't aware of that could easily strip out some of the threads on the little hex bolts. But apart from that, it's very stable, which I like. But the other ones could even give us as good stability, but actually be less fragile, which will be a great turn up for the books if that's the case. Okay, so I'm going to reinstall one of these, not one of these 3 little headstock truss rod cover screws, and then we've got 2 left over for something which I can't think what it was. So I'm happy with the amount of relief in the neck as it is, and it's very low action. This isn't the right screw. It's not one of those, it's one of these. Dust everywhere. Feeling it might be a fraction too low. Depends how hard you hit it. That's the old story. It's probably too low this end, actually, more than anything. Okay, let's do the thing, that thing, intonation. After that, we'll put the that thing back on, pick guard, scratch plate. Right, so let's have a look. Can we do it on there without it hitting? It's okay. It's not loose, it just felt loose. Okay, so those are too long. Let's bring them back up. The other way. This one might not have enough room. Also don't know which way to turn it right now. Can't do it with the string in place. It's as simple as that. So I want to push it this way, but I've got a horrible feeling that it's going to run out of push in that direction. It shouldn't be that far forward. Maybe it's a bit like that. Let's push these a bit. And then this one. widening. The D needs widening. The D needs widening. The D, the D, the D. Okay, that's quite a long bit of travel. What a pain this is. So we haven't got enough travel room on there, so they've all got to come undone, and the stupid tunematic bridge from hell has got to come off. How much do I hate tunematic bridges? Why, let me count the waves. Right, so we have to take the clip off. We have to remove the bottom three. In fact, we should probably move the top three as well, well, one of them, and spin them round. This is a pain in the style bridge. Okay, so these have to spin around. Keep your eye on it when it falls, is the way to go. Okay. I'll end this one. bit more widening here. I'm just doing the sides, widen them a little bit. Tiny bit here.